Good afternoon and welcome to the best part of your day, and that is the Daily Deuce. I am Dante Webster, and joining me today is...
Good afternoon. I'm John Webster, and thank you for coming out today to see another segment of the Daily Deuce.
The Daily Deuce is where we bring you the best in sports from around the country as well as in the local DMV area. Father-son team just here debating the sports. And today we are starting off with the Washington Redskins, who are coming into the bye week with a record of 4-3-1. How do you feel about the Redskins and what they've done so far this season?
Well, Dante, so far, I don't know if the glass is half full or half empty. I don't know how I should feel about it because they're 4-3-1. That's better than a lot of people thought they would be, including myself. But they really should be 6-2 because they should have beat the Bengals. They should have beaten who's the other team they lost? They should have beaten the Detroit Lions. I mean, 5-3, 6-2. That's what I see they should be right now. I just don't get them. The offense is really great. The defense is very suspect. The rest of the season is going to be rough. They have another game against Dallas. They have another game against Philadelphia. Another game against the Giants. It's a rough schedule coming down the pike. And opening it back up after the bye week, they have Minnesota.
But here's the big question. I personally think that tying last week doesn't hurt them as much as the loss to Detroit. So, because at the end of the day, the tie isn't the worst thing you could possibly have. The tie is still better than the loss. So do you think that the tie will end up benefiting them when it comes time for the playoff stretch? When it's time to get in?
No. That's where I'll disagree with you. I think a tie is absolutely, positively, it's not as bad as a loss, but it still stinks. And when you look at how they tied, when they had a chance to kick a 34-yard field goal and win, it's just one of the most empty feelings you can have. I hope it doesn't affect them, but I think it will. I just look at the stretch run and who they still have to play. That's a tough stretch run they have. I mean, they have Minnesota, they have Dallas, they have Philadelphia, they have the Giants. I can't even think of who else they have to go down the stretch. Green Bay, I think, is still on the schedule too.
I think you have the Ravens still too.
No, they beat the Ravens.
They beat the Ravens? Okay.
They finished playing the AFC North.
Okay.
So they're out of the AFC
okay,
North, but it's still a tough stretch run. I'm really pleased with Kirk Cousins. I have always been a Kirk Cousins fan, which you know. I think he's really doing a good job. The offense is not the issue. The offense is not the concern. I just don't know if that defense can hold up. I really don't.
Well, I think that the defense is, to be fair, the defense has improved some. They're not as terrible. And I think Josh Norman has actually been pretty good. I'm not going to say he's worth all the money they give him, but he's actually come to play every week. Week in, week out, he's been the one that's been out there doing his best, putting on a good front, leading the defense. He's done what his job is done. He's done what he's been asked to do so far. So I don't think it's terrible to say that, or you could say the glass is half empty. I'd say you look at it as half full. There's still potential there. Kirk Cousins, quiet as kept, is putting together a very nice season. He still has his moments where he leaves you scratching your head and you're still trying to figure out, is he a good quarterback or is this the best that we're going to see out of him? You can say he's having not a failure of a season, but it's adequate. It's getting the job done. It's good stats, but you're still looking at it as he's leaving a lot of yards on the field, especially with those plays to Deshaun Jackson. And they always talk about the Redskins have all these weapons. If the weapons start to work and everything starts to click for them, you have to get the running game going a little bit more, which I don't know about Jones being your guy for that. But
I don't think Matt Jones. I think the bigger problem is they just aren't used to a running game. They're not used to that, slobber knocker kind of football. And they don't go and stick to the run enough, in my opinion. They get away from it. They go to that passing game. And I still don't understand how Kirk Cousins can overthrow Deshaun Jackson, which he's done 3 times this year.
All right, so the bigger question would be, what is the thing that you're going to be looking for the most out of the Redskins for the end of the year? For myself, for the last half of the season, I'd say how are they going to do in the 4-game stretch where they don't have Trent Williams?
Probably 2-2. I think by the end of the season, I think their record's going to be 8-7-1.
And playoffs? Or no playoffs for DC this year?
It kills me to say this, Dante, but I think the team that has a star on their helmet, your favorite team, I think they're well on their way to a playoff berth. Matter of fact, as we speak today, I think they're beating the Cleveland Browns, 35-10?
They won that game.
Oh, beautiful. So that's another game back for the Redskins. Beautiful.
And that's how we're thinking about football. Redskins playoffs, I think it could happen. Him, not so much.
It won't happen.
Now on to my favorite sport, basketball. NBA season has just started up. You have the Warriors that just got manufactured this summer, the new look Warriors. You have the Cavaliers coming off of a championship, and they are going to be celebrating in Cleveland this year. The question is, does the championship continue? Does the championship celebration continue all year, or are we going to be looking at the Warriors and saying this is the team that everybody has to beat?
That's a nice word you use, manufactured.
Well, it's been bought basically, but I didn't use that
I,
word.
I won't go down that path, Dante, and say that the team has been bought or purchased. I think it was Kevin Durant's decision where he wanted to go, and I wish him the best. With that being said, the Golden State Warriors will have a difficult time this season. There will not be 72 wins. There will not be 73 wins. It'll probably be 55 or 60 wins this year. As you see so far this year, they're taking time to get used to one another. First game of the season, my favorite team, the Geritol Kids, the San Antonio Spurs, they beat them and beat them soundly. Friday night, they had their normal letdown when they played in Los Angeles against the Lakers, and Lakers beat them. I think this team is going to take a while to get used to each other. And as I said to you last year, when we were talking about Golden State and you were talking about them, let me remind you, you said they were a dynasty. One-year teams with a championship do not make a dynasty, my friend.
You're
So
right. Correct.
I don't see them becoming a juggernaut, and I think they're going to struggle this season. Whether they make it out of the West is a whole nother story because San Antonio is going to be good, and I think, and I may be in the minority on this, Oklahoma City is going to surprise some people.
Now, with that being said, Oklahoma City just did lose to them by 20 already. So the biggest thing becomes the Warriors, and I think the Warriors, as currently constructed, could still win a championship, but they're losing a whole lot of pieces, and you didn't think that the guys they lost would be the ones that would hurt because you're looking at the big hole in the middle. There's no Bogut. You have KD, and KD has actually done everything that's been asked of him so far.
Yes,
It's
he
been
has.
the other guys that actually were already there, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond. They look like they're trying to get their footing. They're trying to learn to play with him. KD has been solid. You can't even blame him for anything. I don't even blame him for leaving. Whether you wanted him to go there or not, fine, it's his decision. But the biggest thing is, while he's been there, he's been solid, he's been playing correctly. The biggest thing will be, can they develop the chemistry and will they be able to overcome the lapses that they're going to have on defense? Because on defense, they're not going to be as solid as they were a year ago. Pachulia is not Bogut. Whatever you may want to say about him being a rebounder or a hard-nosed guy, he works hard, he hustles. He's not Bogut. I think personally they should give some more playing time to JaVale McGee. I'd like to see it. But whatever you want to say about him in DC, he's a guy who can run the court. He protect the rim. That's what you need right now. You don't need any more points. You just need to protect the rim, run the court. And in terms of everything going on right now, I think the Cavaliers would have to be the front runner because the Cavaliers still undefeated, still look very solid. And if you look at it, they can probably match up with Golden State better than anyone that's not named San Antonio. And I think that if you look at it, Cleveland's probably going to run through the East. They don't look like there's anybody in the East that's going to stop them. You give Boston a little bit of credit. You give Toronto some credit. Both of them are solid teams. And they're not bad by any stretch, but it's just Cleveland's still here. Everybody else is still here. Can Boston improve some and get there because Boston probably has the best coach in the East, I would say. Yes, that can happen, but will it? Will the pieces all gel together? Al Horford's always been a good player, very good player, not to discredit him. Al Horford's always been a very good player, but he never had a team take the extra leap. In Atlanta, sure, but they never got over Cleveland. Can he do it with Boston with better coaching, I would imagine? Budenholzer's not a bad coach, but you have Stevens, who's a very phenomenal coach. Can he get them to the next level in the East? And I don't know about that right now. That's why I still think it's Cleveland's game, and I still think the Warriors are playing catch-up to Cleveland at this point.
Well, in the East, Cleveland, hands down right now, is the best team in the East. You know I love my Celtics. Always have, always will. I think they have a chance with the addition of Horford of improving. Whether they can beat Cleveland now is a whole nother story. And out west with Golden State, I agree with you. They don't have rim protection. The rim protector is sitting on the bench, JaVale McGee, and also the kid Looney, I think his name is. Those are the two kids that they need to play.
Pretty good, yeah.
Those are two kids. You don't need points. You need rebounds and to stop what's coming down the middle. That's all you need.
And we can't end this segment without talking about the fact that as of now, the Lakers are undefeated against the Warriors for this season.
How many more
And
times?
we're actually in 8th place right now, too. Let that be known. We're in 8th place. We're actually in a playoff spot right now.
Oh, great. Let me clap for you. That means
I
the
know,
first
yeah.
game will be against San Antonio. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, hey, you know what? That's still the playoffs in my book. The playoffs are the playoffs. I'm not losing any sleep over that one. We're looking good right now. So, Shout out to Luke Walton, D'Angelo Russell. We're looking like we're going to be a solid team in about 2 or 3 years.
I'm sorry, did you say 2 or 3 days?
We have time to wait. 2 or 3 years. I said years. We have time to wait. There is no problem with that. We'll talk about Washington when they're making some noise. Until then, we got to focus on the big fish. So that's Cleveland and Golden State.
We will see. Well, we're going to do something a little bit different this time. Normally, Dante opens all of our segments and does a wonderful job. But since we're going to talk about baseball, he's going to let me open the segment, and I will open it by saying, "Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are going to win today." What do you say?
Have that one. The Cubs won. The Cubs won. The Cubs won the World Series, first time in 108 years. And actually, the big question that's coming off of the World Series win is, are we going to be able to start talking dynasty with the Cubs? The Cubs have all of their young players basically under control for the next few years. So it becomes, do you think it's a dynasty situation brewing?
You know I don't like talking dynasties in any sport, but I'll tell you, they have Rizzo locked in. They have Chris Bryant locked in. They have Baez locked in.
Schwarber.
They got Schwarber locked in.
You at least get another year out of Arrieta.
I mean, Arrieta's going to have a year. You're bringing Lester back. You're going to bring Hendricks back. I'll tell you what, they have the makings of doing something that the Atlanta Braves did a few years back when they went 14 straight years and they won the American League East and West. National League East and National League West. They have the opportunity to do that. They are going to be something to be reckoned with, and they have a deep farm system. So as they're going to lose players, such as Dexter Fowler,
you may lose him. Yeah.
They're really not worried about losing Fowler because they got a kid in the minor league who is a heck of a center fielder who they're looking to bring up. That's why they're not really worried about it. But it's an unbelievable team. Theo Epstein, I give him all the credit in the world. Joe Madden, I give all the credit in the world. As you know, if my favorite team's the Orioles, if I'm not rooting for the Orioles, it is the Cubs.
I think they have a good chance of being a dynasty. The curse has been lifted, so the whole thing becomes who's going to catch them. Next year, if you look at it, I think they had to win this year. This was the year they had to win, and the biggest reason for that is whatever number of starters that the Mets had this year that were gone, they're all coming back next year. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest thing becomes, will they be able to withstand all of that pitching next year? Because if the Mets are healthy, and the Mets have those, what did they have? Mets have DeGrom, Syndergaard, who else? Harvey. You have all those guys going for the Mets. That's really good pitching. Can you keep up with that? So I think the Mets will be really good competition next year if they get healthy again. I think the Nationals, if they can finally win that elusive playoff series, could become good competition. So I'm actually thinking they were better off to win this year, and it probably gives them a boost heading into next year. Do I think they could be a dynasty? It's a strong possibility right now. Joe Madden's a very good manager as well. So you have to look at it and say it's a pretty good chance right now. It's not looking like I don't feel like this is a one-and-done situation where, like, after you watched the Royals last year, you probably thought, this is good. I don't know how long it's going to be until they win another one. I think with the Cubs, with all those young players who now have World Series experience and who actually didn't do too bad for themselves. They had a couple of sloppy games, but other than that, who actually did pretty well for themselves, scored a good amount of runs, pitching was doing good. You have all these young players. You have veterans who've been to the World Series before. You have a pretty good mix there in Chicago. So I think they do have a very good chance of either repeating or starting something that can go on for the next 3-4 years, who knows? And I'm lowballing it by saying that amount of time.
Well, what concerns me, you mentioned the Mets. The Mets have great pitching, but I don't know if they can hold on to their players. Example today, Cespedes just opted out of his contract to become a free agent. So now you're looking for a right fielder. That's a really important. Your corner outfielders are so important, And he was a 5-tool guy. You know, he could do a little bit of everything, and you're going to lose him. I agree with you. The Nationals will be a tough team. They have quite a bit of pitching. They just re-signed Gio Gonzalez last week. They have Strasburg coming back. You still got Scherzer. So they're going to be tough. But we'll have to see what's going to happen. And then don't forget the American League East. My Orioles are going to find a way, Dante. They're going to find a way to have Oriole magic.
Find a way to be mediocre. Find a way to, I'm sorry, mediocre is the wrong word. You'll get to the playoffs. That's what it is. You'll get to the playoffs. You won't get to the World Series. What is that big thing you're missing still? Starting pitching? An ace. Not even sorry, you're missing an ace. You're missing the guy that you anchor everybody else with. We're still missing that. You traded him away because he just won a World Series ring. Well, yeah, Jake Arrieta's doing pretty good for himself now.
Hey,
Whoever is in charge of you guys' developmental system is just probably shooting himself in the foot right
well,
about now.
next year, Orioles Cubs World Series.
You want to call that now? This is on tape. You can actually go back to this. We could actually, you want to say that now? It's like you're like the guy who called it in 1993. The Cubs are winning the World Series in 2016. He got lucky. I don't know if you will. He did. I mean, I don't think the Orioles will make it that far next year. But hey, if you want to, it's already on tape. You've already said it. So hey, that's what it is. Next year, I guess the Daily Deuce is calling a Cubs and Orioles World Series. I don't think that's going to happen, but he does. So we'll go with that. Works for me.